Now for a big report. As Osun State moves closer to its election, attention is increasingly turning to the political atmosphere across the state and the level of preparation ahead of the poll. Political parties and their candidates are stepping up activities while security remains a major concern as authorities work to ensure a peaceful electoral process. With the election drawing closer, what is the situation on the ground? Are the political activities shaping up? And how prepared are security agencies for the days ahead? We have our correspondent, Akede and Mercy Ajibade, joining us to bring us to speed on the latest development across Osun State.
Good morning, Mercy. Good morning, Bernard. Please note there is a 4-second delay, so just have that in mind. Mercy, let's start with you. It's 6 days before the elections. We have 14 parties, only 12 of them have signed the peace agreement. And we're wondering what the climate is like in Osun State now, especially when you have security in mind. What is it like in Osun this morning?
Hello, good morning to you, Mazino and Queen Celestine in the studio. When it comes to the peace accord, yes, all the political parties have signed that agreement, but then we do not know, or we cannot ascertain whether they are keeping to the ends of agreement, because as of yesterday, both parties, and when I mean both parties, I mean Accord Party and the All Progressive Congress, have alleged that there is serious violence. Even someone from the ADC actually confirmed that yesterday. We had to speak with the ADC chairman for media, where he said one of their rally or campaign that happened in Elisha yesterday morning was marred by serious violence. And he alleged that he came from someone from Accord Party. And we equally spoke with the CPS to the governor, that is Malam Rashid, who equally stated that their party resident in, I think, Ife or Elisha too, was destroyed yesterday. And I don't know if they still have the pictures there, but we saw pictures and videos of how the resident of the Accord Party was destroyed yesterday. But then both parties are pointing accusing fingers at each other. But then I feel like we have to get to the police, of course, to confirm certain things, because these allegations are actually huge. Because Malam also told us yesterday that the Commissioner for Environment, or he alleged that Commissioner of Environment was arrested yesterday, and he said the police arrested the Commissioner for Environment. So we would have to get back to the police to confirm whether all of these allegations are true, and hopefully we can have both parties sit together, and we don't know what will happen if both parties are together, actually.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Bernard, while we're still on the matter of security, well, most voters are wondering, will I be able to vote on the day of election and go back home safe? But security is much more than that. Security also has to do with election materials. So I'm wondering now, as you are in Osun State, what final mobilization is like for the parties? How are they able to, well, mobilize? Are there talks of day of voting? How election materials will be moved? What are the security agencies saying? Bernard?
All right, good morning, Mazino, and good morning, Celestine. For the security operatives whom we've been speaking to, particularly the police, they have been given, top-notch assurance that everything is in place and everything will continue to be in place leading up to the days to the election and even after the election. We've been told by the public relations officer of the police here in Osun State that each polling unit will be adequately guarded by police officers. We've also been told, as is the case during most off-cycle elections, that police officers have been coming from other states, of course, being deployed from other states to Osun State just to beef up the security architecture, whether it is for the citizens themselves or for the electoral materials, sensitive and non-sensitive materials alike. Of course, on the days leading to the election, possibly 3 or 4 days to the election, eventually we'll get to hear more information from INEC, the electoral umpire, as to when the materials will begin to move. Of course, when the ad hoc staff themselves too will begin to move. But if you permit me, concerning security of the individuals, I'd also like to speak, or rather we have been speaking to people to find out how secure they feel concerning the elections, not just on the day of the voting itself, but even on the days before the election. And I have Olani here. I'd like to have his own opinion and use that as random sampling, so to speak. Olani, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a few days to the election, and there are concerns about safety and security, and that's one of the conversations we're having here on Breakfast Extra News Central. How safe do you feel days leading to this election, and then on the election day, such that you feel that it is safe enough for you to vote?
Well, from my own view, from what I've heard from the new CP that they deployed to Osun State, he promised us that there will be a free and fair election. But from the various news and destruction that we heard, we say around Osun State, we voters are fear of coming out. But from the promise that the new CCCP made, we hope that there will be a free and fair election coming up this Saturday, inshallah.
All right, and finally, will you be casting your vote on Saturday?
Yeah, inshallah, I will.
Thank you so much, Olani.
Yeah,
Ambassador Celestine, that has, pretty much summed up the voices of the regular people on the street. There's assurance from security operatives, but from what they've been seeing and been hearing, there's some level of fear that may hold some people back. Back to you.
Thank you, Bernard, for that. Now, Mercy, where you are, have you been able to talk to people, feel the pulse and get their own comments as to how they feel about the election?
Okay, right to my left, I have Jamiu Omoni, an Osun resident that will be telling us about how the preparation is going for election. Hello, Jamiu.
Good morning.
Can you tell us about what the preparations are for the election, the upcoming election? I mean, the election is in 6 days' time.
Yes, this is Osogbo, the capital of Osun State, and of course, we have been witnessing relative peace in the last 1 week. But what we observed yesterday was a resurgence of what seems to be a political tension, though not primarily in the state capital, but in one of the places that has been declared the hotspot in Osun State before, in Elisha. So they have been blamed, they have been counter-blamed, but the police have also come to say that, okay, they have made some arrests. But in 6 days to election, we seem that the residents are ready, like the electoral umpire are giving us assurance that it's going to be a peaceful election. But the 6 days will come and election will come in Osun, and Osun will still be peaceful. We hope so.
Okay, you've heard right from Jamiu's mouth. Do you have any other questions for him?
Well, just ask him, in terms of all the candidates for the election, how has the campaigning been in there, and who is he rooting for?
Okay, who are you rooting for, and how has the campaigns been so far?
What I noticed is that the two major political parties, the All Progressives Congress and the ruling Accord Party, they both have chance in the coming election, and only God can say presently now. But I think I would just have to commend the presence of security operatives right now in the state capital and other major cities, because we cannot walk a kilometer without seeing operatives of the Nigerian police, and I think this will go a long way in assuring us that the election is going to be peaceful. But who will emerge is only God I can see that for now.
Who are you buying?
Anyway, so I'm an individual with, let me just keep my opinion somehow private, and of course, I'm going to participate in the election, and I think it's going to be successful.
All right, you heard straight from Jamiu. It looks like he's not going to, of course, tell us who he's going to vote for the coming elections.
Thank you, Mercy.
Thank you.
Bernard. Mazido, Bernard. Now, let me ask, looking at, all the activities that's been happening towards this election, would you say that, they are prepared and the election will be peaceful based on your observations since you've been on ground?
Well, I would like to say that I would hope that the election will be peaceful. I wouldn't want to be a prophet of doom, but I would say that I would hope that the election will be peaceful. But then again, let's remind ourselves that hope is not a strategy. For it to be peaceful, it means that certain infrastructure would have to be in place. First of all, the electoral umpires would have to make it airtight. The security operatives, talking about the police, the Federal Road Safety Corps, Amotekun on ground here, and all other agencies would equally have to, bend their backs and leave no stone unturned. The cases of, pockets of violence that we've been hearing here and there in certain parts of the state, now not necessarily in the state capital, Osogbo, but in some remote areas where campaigns have been ongoing, places where we've been seeing and hearing of billboards and offices being vandalized, kind of put some little fear in the atmosphere. So to talk about safety, again, we would want to hope that the election will be safe. But again, as I mentioned, hope is not a strategy. It's going to be a function of the actions of the security operatives who are currently on ground and those who equally will be deployed to the state come the election time.
Thank you, Bernard. Bernard, that was a difficult question to answer. I saw you struggle there. Right after she asked you that question, I actually said that's a tough question. So let me remix. Bernard, if the election was tomorrow, what would be the biggest concern? Seeing as you've been on ground, what have you observed? If the election was tomorrow, what would be the biggest concern?
I think if the election was tomorrow, the biggest concern for me would be voter apathy, would be turnout of the electorate. And that's because just yesterday, as you may have heard or known, there was allegedly an attack on supporters of the All Progressives Congress, APC, somewhere in the state, I think around Ife, if I'm not mistaken, Ife or Ilesha. We spoke to, or Mercy, my colleague there, spoke to some of the spokespersons of the APC who confirmed and shared videos, after which we tried to speak to representatives of the ruling party, Akede, and they equally had, their own fair share, according to them, of electoral supporters that they claim have equally been attacked. So it's like the French would say, comme ci, comme ça, like this, like that. These people claiming they've been attacked, the others claiming they equally have been attacked. These people claiming that our materials have been vandalized, and the others equally claiming the same thing. But right now, I'll say that it's looking like a two-horse race, and largely it's looking like it's going to be a keenly contested battle between the ruling Accord Party and, of course, All Progressives Congress. And because these two parties are political juggernauts, one being the ruling party in the country, the other being the ruling party in the state, if the election were to be tomorrow, there would be some fear for safety, if you ask me. And again, that's because of what is currently on ground. So again, I would use Celestine's question to wrap up the answer to your question, Mazino, and that is that there is still some fear concerning security around this election that is forthcoming.
Well, Bernard Akede, thank you so much for fearlessly reporting. I don't think the question was difficult. Don't mind, Mazino. But thank you anyway for answering the question for me. And Mercy Ajibade, thank you. I hope you guys are safe where you are. Of course, we'll continue following up this conversation up until Saturday. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much.